Good evening, everyone. We're going to call this special meeting of the Malden School Committee to order. Today is Monday, June 23rd, 2025, and the time is 6:00 p.m. This evening's agenda will consist of the following. First, we will pledge allegiance to our flag. We'll then have a moment of silence in honor of all those who have fought and continue to fight for our country. We'll then take attendance to ensure that we have a sufficient quorum to allow us to come together. We will then get into three items. The first is the Superintendent Evaluation, followed by the approval of the Handbook and Program of Studies. That will be led by Ms. Rose-Zeiberg. And then we will entertain a motion to go into executive session. If successful, that will be to discuss collective bargaining relative to the Malden Education Association Units A, B, and C. Then we will come back out. We will move adjournment. Are there any questions? Hearing none, let's pledge allegiance to our flag first, as always. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of all those who have fought for our country and continue to do so today. Thank you. Now let's take attendance.
Mayor Christensen?
Here.
Mr. Drummy? Mr. McCarthy? Ms. Spatafora?
Here.
Ms. Macklin?
Here.
Ms. Horty?
Here.
Mr. Gray?
Here.
Mr. Bernard? Ms. Rose-Zeiberg? Superintendent Tippel?
All right, we have a quorum sufficient to allow us to come together. Now let's take a look at the superintendent evaluation. So I'm going to go over to our vice chair to explain where we are and where we're going.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the superintendent provided a set of goals to this committee back in November of 2024 and that it passed unanimously for approval. Those goals would then direct the superintendent on what the first year of his employment here in the Malden Public Schools would look like. He provided a self-evaluation to the committee members, and each committee member was asked to evaluate the superintendent based off of those goals and the self-assessment provided. So I'm just going to share with the committee what that looked like.
Okay.
Oh, hold on, I have to go back to this.
Okay.
There we go. Let's see if I can move this out of the way. So the evaluation process consisted of the superintendent establishing goals and his focus indicators. The school committee then voted to approve said goals. At the beginning of June, the superintendent provided a self-evaluation on those goals. The school committee members then submitted completed individual evaluations, and the compiler created a composite evaluation of those evaluations, and then we are here tonight for committee approval.
Let's do this.
Very simple.
The moment of truth.
So just A quick review of the superintendent's goal. Goal 1 was effective entry and direction setting, and this was the superintendent's district improvement goal. So by late spring of 2025, the district will have a broad agreement from key stakeholder groups about the district's most critical needs for improvement, the strategies and goals that will address them most effectively, and the measures that will be used to assess progress. Goal number 2 is maintaining focus on continuous improvement during the transition, and this is the student learning goal. So through the collaborative development of a common vision of effective instruction, keep the district moving forward during the year's transition by working with the district-wide leadership team to ensure that meaningful improvement is underway in the classroom, school, and district levels. And then his third goal was goal number 3, new superintendent induction program, and this was his professional practice goal. And that was to develop skills in strategy development, data analysis, and instructional leadership by completing the first year of the new superintendent induction program and earning at least proficient ratings on each major assignment. Before we get to how everybody voted, I just compiled some of the comments that each member put together that highlighted how they felt the superintendent was doing. So I won't read through all of them, but I will note a few. Ms. Horty mentioned that Dr. Sipple has made a concerted effort to understand the tradition and culture of the Malden Public Schools, while also examining areas that need to be addressed and uncovering needs. Throughout his first year, Dr. Sipple has attended multiple community events, almost all school-related activities, and otherwise became a member of the Malden community. He believes in transparency and is always available to answer questions. Mr. Drummey said Dr. Sipple hit the ground running. He came in, set up his entry plan, and proceeded to accomplish what he started. He's straightforward, calls it as he sees it, lets the staff do their jobs, and only interjects when asked or required. The district has a much more relaxed and harmonious feel to it, which it hasn't had in a long time. Good effort, year 1, first year. Mayor Christensen said, I've been mayor now for 13 years, and I've never seen a stronger start for a first-year superintendent than I have for Tim Sipple. From instructional leadership to community engagement to working well with the school committee, I believe Superintendent Sipple has all the makings of being one of the best to pass through our community. I look forward to year 2, especially now that he was able to help lead us to a 3-year agreement with the MEA. Many more comments that you'll see there, all of them were positive and reinforcing the evaluations that each person submitted.
Okay.
I'm sorry this is not bigger, and I will give a little background on the color coding. So I wonder if I can make this bigger actually for those at home. Let's get out of that for a second. Everywhere I want to move, everything else moves. But so step 1 in your evaluation was to assess progress towards the goals. There was 3 goals: a professional practice goal, a student learning goal, and the district improvement goal. Most everybody gave the superintendent a met expectation. The items that I highlighted in red kind of meant a stop for a moment because we had some progress on that goal. A yellow indicated we're moving slowly just because we saw some significant progress, but it wasn't quite met. And green was beyond met, and that was exceed. We're full steam ahead. We're moving forward. So I wish oh, this little thing keeps hide. There we go. So you can see the member across the top: Mr. Drummey, McCarthy, Spatafora, Macklin, Horty, Gray, Bernard, Zeiberg, and Christensen, and the ratings for those 3 goals. The second item we had to do was assess performance on the standards each one of these standards had what's called focus indicators aligned with them: instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community engagement, and professional culture. Of the superintendent's goals, there is an indicator that aligned to each one, and we then evaluated to see if he met those focus indicators. The committee wholeheartedly evaluated that the superintendent was proficient, or I missed a green exemplary right there under Ms. Macklin, but that he has nothing below met expectations.
Let me stop you there. We just got a text that they can't hear you.
I'm so sorry. I'll try to be a little bit closer.
You said there's a slide on the screen, but they can't hear anything. Let me see if that does it. Okay.
Okay. I'm going to talk. It sounds like we may have some technical difficulty and people not hearing us at home. Please let us know if you can now. So again, the second step was to assess performance on those standards, which were aligned to the focus indicators, aligned to the superintendent's goals. Yep. Finally, the third step was to rate the overall summative performance. So overall, each member of the committee evaluated the superintendent at proficient or exemplary. So based on all of the evaluations, everything submitted, the school committee overall rating equals out to a proficient. Any
Okay.
questions?
All right, let's open it up to questions. Everybody knows where we're at. Let's go to Mr. McCarthy first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only question that I actually have when it comes to the student, can you, Ms.
Go back?
Malfoy? Yeah,
Sure.
can you go back?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when it comes to the district improvement goal, the only thing that I didn't really see in there when I was looking at obviously the 3 goals that he sent to us and, we voted on and approved, I didn't see anything there about student attendance. So, do you have an explanation for that?
Might be more, I'm not sure.
I'm just curious overall, like district improvement goal when it comes to student attendance, making sure kids are coming to school consistently and understanding what, what the district's going to be doing moving forward.
And Mr. McCarthy, are you saying that should have been a standalone goal or
Well, at least it should have been
highlighted more?
having a little information in there when it comes to that. Yeah,
Do you want to, or should he?
So
I mean, I think that's important.
Yeah, gotcha.
agreed that it's very important. I think when this committee was presented with his goals back in November that we approved,
Right.
that's when we say, can you please add that to your goal? But I think also because his goals tie very tightly to his entry planning, and I know he's been working on that, I think the superintendent could answer, to it, but it wasn't a standalone goal and therefore not necessarily a standalone goal to evaluate to.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that not a standalone goal as having that highlighted, but at least having some information in there when it comes to, I mean, attendance obviously is an overall district, thing. So I just didn't know if that was something he could, kind of maybe explain.
So before we go to the superintendent, Mr. McCarthy, year 2, we should maybe make that.
I think that's an important thing.
Yeah, so
going
make
into
a
year
mental
2.
note there for that.
Yeah.
All right, superintendent.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank the committee for your support. since day one. You've been extremely welcoming to me and a great collaborative partner as a group and as individuals, and I just really thank you for a wonderful first year from me too. And thank you for the feedback. And even if it were exemplary across the board, we know that there's still work to do. And that's why I came here, and that's why you brought me here, and I'm excited to continue that work in my second year. To respond to you, Mr. McCarthy, I think one of the standards that was included in the ratings was under Standard 1, Instructional Leadership, and it refers to data-informed decision-making, which includes evidence and data on district and school culture and climate, which includes attendance. And are students there? Do they enjoy being there? Do they feel welcome? Do they feel like they belong? And are they excited about being in school? And we definitely presented data on areas where we have to grow in that a lot. We discussed that as a part of the state data, accountability data last winter, and it will definitely be a part of our focus going forward.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for that. That's, extremely important. I think that going into year two, as the mayor just said, it's got to be a focus. I've heard it loud and clear from community members, and I think it has to be looked into.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
So, Mr. McCarthy, make a note of that.
I will.
When we get to year two, we'll
I will.
try to
I will
highlight
make
that.
a note of that.
All right. Anybody else? Any other questions? Everybody understands we have to accept this?
We have to vote on it.
You have to vote on it.
We have to
Okay.
vote on it.
All right, everyone, so that's our next step. We have to vote on it. Any other questions? So you want to make the motion, I presume?
I will make the motion
Seconded
to
by-
approve.
Seconded by Ms. Horty. All right, any other questions? All right, let's have the clerk call the roll.
Mr. Drummy, Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Spatafora,
Yes.
Ms. Macklin,
Yes.
Ms. Horty,
Yes.
Mr. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Bernard,
Yes.
Mr. Rose-Zeiberg, Mayor Christensen.
Yes. All right, that carries unanimously. All right, thank you, Ms. Spatafora. Now, let's take a look at this handbook, shall we? So we're going to go to Ms. Rose-Zeiberg for that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've all received copies of the handbook and program of studies. They are lengthy. I know I have been going through. I had actually some questions that were answered and changed, and addressed for this. I don't know. I mean, we have to make a motion now to approve it?
Sure.
And then open it up for questions. So motion, can we take them together?
Yes.
Motion to approve the handbook and program of studies.
Is there a second for purposes of discussion? Mr. Bernard. All right, everybody, so now it's properly up before us. Let's see if there's any questions. Let's go to Ms. Horty first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No, maybe. Hold on. a second.
Mine is still on.
Can you shut that? Ms. Horty, can you turn the button? Yeah, please. Okay, let me try it again. Okay, here we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a question. There are a lot of pages here, Ms. Rose-Zeiberg. One of the things that stuck out to me, and I think a lot of it has to do with my own experience with enforcement of things like dress code at middle school and high school, and being very careful as to not impede on students' ability to express themselves. Also recognizing that sometimes dress codes have a tendency to skew very gendered when we tend to pick out clothes that we are going to put in our dress code violation that more often than not female students are wearing. One of the things that I noticed on this bulleted list on page 30/31 in the handbook is strapless top or halter tops. That to me felt hard to enforce. I also, when I was reviewing all of the other bullet points listed under here, I noticed that there were very specific reasons why they weren't there. I can read some to you if that would be helpful. Like chains and wallet belts, because they can be dangerous or, used inappropriately. Spiked collars, spiked bracelets, things like that, that again can be used as a weapon. But when we list strapless tops and halter tops, there's nothing there. So I'd like to see if anyone else would consider possibly removing that one bullet.
All right, let's hear from the chair. Ms. Rose-Zeiberg, do you want to?
You hit the button on the one next to you, actually. Shut that one off from flashing.
Oh.
Let me try this.
One of them will work. There you go.
Now
No?
press the button on yours.
Press it again. Okay, let me try your original one. Okay, let's try your original one, Ms. Rose-Zeiberg. The one to your right.
I know. Oh, there we go. Yay, you did it.
There it is.
See, we don't have that problem here. Where people talk over each other, we have to shut the mics. That's a council setting. All right, sorry about that, Ms. Rose-Zeiberg.
That's fine. As I think we've made it clear this whole year, I'm always welcome to have things come back for discussion into policy, and also just knowing, I had wanted to mention earlier, some of the items, particularly in the handbook, I know they're at a state level right now. We have a cell phone policy, but they right now are debating issues at the state level. So while we would pass this, it's obviously a document that we will be having to look at all year, especially when things come in from other levels that we have to incorporate. So I'm always happy to look. I'm assuming that is actually one. I had actually talked to Superintendent earlier. We have some things in the books that it's sort of the pre-existing. So to try to go back and find out why there were, what was the rationale for that. I'm always open to looking.
Thank you. Is that good, Ms. Wardy? Yes. Anybody else? Let's go to Ms. Macklin, hopefully. Do you have your light on?
I really didn't, but I can ask a question.
See if it works.
If it was
I know I have. Wait a second. How about now?
Gotta shut that one off.
Wait a second.
there. Thank you, Mr. Chair. To Ms. Rose-Zeiberg, I was just wondering if you can highlight any of the changes for school year 26. Any of the main or I guess they're all important, but if there's anything that we should be aware of without actually reading through the whole handbook and comparing it to school year 25.
Give me 5 minutes to turn her mic on. There we go.
For this, I would actually like to turn it over to Superintendent Sipple, who is largely in charge of especially for the programmatic portion of this, and some changes in that.
Does that work, Ms. Macklin? We'll go to the soup. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'd say overall, believe it or not, at 100 pages for the handbook and almost 200 pages for the program of studies, we actually did cut out a lot. There was a lot of content that we didn't feel was necessary, and we still have more work to do over the next year to identify additional content that I don't think families are typically looking for in this document because they can find it in other places, whether on the website or at the school site. So I do acknowledge that these documents are very long and too long, and we'll continue to refine them not just next year, but over the course of the year. One thing I was happy to clarify for Ms. Rose-Zeiberg when we spoke earlier is just that the course of study, all the courses, the course catalog rather, in the program of studies, the fact that a course is there does not necessarily mean that that course is being offered this year, because, for example, we are doing something a little bit different with 11th grade English. We were happy to achieve a compromise with the English department at the high school to make this happen. But we had 4 different genres of 11th grade English that were being offered this past year. And we found that may have unintentionally complicated the master's schedule in such ways that students may not have been able to get the course that they wanted, and then they were then knocked out of other courses that they wanted to take, and that didn't contribute alone to directed studies being a problem, but it didn't help. And so we asked all the rising 11th graders to identify 3 of the genres that they were interested in studying as 11th graders, and then we guaranteed that they would get at least 1 of those choices. And then instead of 5 genres, which were they were asked to choose among, we are offering 3 of them. But those 2 that are not being offered for next year, those are still in the program of study because those may be more highly favored or more highly sought by students next year. So those kinds of things, that's one reason why the document is longer than it might need to be, because those courses, we don't remove them completely when they're not being offered in a given year. I think on the handbook, I think another thing, we did discover some sections that were at variance with school committee policy, and we were careful to remove those sections that I think had mistakenly been included in years past that were at variance with school committee policy, to make sure that that what we were doing was consistent with school committee policy. So those were some of the examples of the changes that we made.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? All right, hearing none, the motion's been made, it's been seconded. So, Ms. Horty, just to clarify, you'll work with Ms. Rose-Zeiberg offline and potentially come back with, okay. All right, very good. You ready to rock? All right, let's call the roll.
Mr. Drummy? Mr. McCarthy? Yes. Ms. Spatafora?
Yes.
Ms. Macklin?
Yes.
Ms. Horty?
Yes.
Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Bernard?
Yes.
Ms. Rose-Zeiberg? Superintendent Mayor Christensen.
Well, if you want to let him vote, that's fine
Came
with
right
me.
out.
The way I'm going lately, that wouldn't be a bad thing. Yes.
I apologize.
Okay, so that carries unanimously. And just for the public who have been asking, this now gets hoisted up on our website? Is that how it gets
Yes.
disseminated?
Yeah, within the next couple of days, it'll be up on the website.
Okay, and clearly delineated, right? Yeah.
School year 25-26.
Okay, very good. All right, now we're at item number 6. So we'll entertain a motion to go into executive session. Mr. Bernard made it. It's been seconded by Mr. McCarthy. Everybody clear? Okay, let's have the clerk call the roll.
Mr. Drummy? Mr. McCarthy? Yes. Ms. Spatafora?
Yes.
Ms. Macklin?
Yes.
Ms. Horty?
Yes.
Mr. Gray? Yes. Mr. Bernard? Yes. Ms. Rose-Zeiberg? Mayor Christensen?
Yes, that carries unanimously. School committee will now be in executive session.
I just, it says just join back, and it'll pop back up again. I am sorry, Mr. Mayor. I am so
Okay, the school committee is back. We'll entertain any motions from the members.
Motion.
Motion to adjourn, seconded by Ms. Horty. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. School committee is hereby adjourned.